I'm not really sure where to go from there. I'm kind of embarrassed. Guys out there, do you ever have an issue with premature openings? It's nothing.
And you nailed it too.
Nothing to be embarrassed about.
Yeah,
nothing
he nailed
to be
it, and it wasn't
about.
fun. I don't want to watch him do a premature opening. Ooh, echo.
And I don't know why. I don't know what. I just felt it. You know what I mean? I was so excited to get back to everyone and to do this show that it just kind of happened. So it's a thing, and we're gonna deal with it. Kyle here, Smug Steve there. Hello, Smug Steve.
Hello. Hashtag. No, you've got the hashtag.
Oh, made me laugh.
Trending.
And, we're going to explain in just a second, but let's say hello to the lovely new channel of the year recipient, Shannon Q.
Hey, hi. Hi, guys. How you doing? Hi, Smug Steve. Hi, Premature Kyle.
Why are we
I don't know which is worse.
Why are we calling Steve Smug again?
Oh, because Matt Dillahunty handed him his face on Twitter, and that was fine.
Had him in my face. Is that even a colloquialism?
Yeah, well, it is. It is in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Oh, it must be
contribute that to him. Yeah. So Steve and Matt Dillahunty are having a little tiff on Twitter, and Steve got the name Smug Steve out of it, which is fantastic.
It's the best.
Well, I think he's upset that I got promoted to the Pope of Agnosticism because he doesn't like the title Pope of Atheism, although he's used it before in the atheist experience. He's actually referred to himself, jestfully as the Pope of Atheism. He knows it's bullshit, but he comically talks about it. But God forbid people vote me the Pope of Atheism or somebody Pope of Agnosticism, and he just loses his shit.
I'm not sure that's why he's called.
I didn't cast a ballot.
I'm not sure that's why he's called. Yeah. I think it's the definitions thing. From what I took out of it, it's the definitions thing.
He's the one that's more smug about it. He asserts that his way is the only way.
No, you're more smug. No, you're more smug.
How am I smug on it? There are more ways than one. He affirms one. I affirm there's multiple ways.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm
already train wreck.
I'm more understanding of it than him.
Take us out.
That's right. Does this mean I can be on Dumpster Fire of the Year next year?
Yes.
Planning it.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I got an email today. By the way, our viewers out there, all of you guys are the greatest. Like, we have the best audience, I think, and it's so diverse. But I got an email from a guy that was telling me that he doesn't agree with anything that we say on the show. He's he's of a different opinion on most things. However, he is learning how to 3D print, and he wants the winners of the Golden Nun and the graphics, and he is going to 3D print the Golden Nuns and send them to the recipients. And I just thought that was the greatest. Yes. So you will actually be getting a Golden Nun. How fantastic is that? Yeah. How fantastic is that?
Gosh,
so
that is fantastic. What a generous man. Thank you.
Very. So thank you. You know who you are. I'm not going to dox you or call out your name or anything on on the air, but we really appreciate that. That was a generous offer, and I will get those. I will get those to you for sure. Okay. I just have one future show that I want to announce, because Shannon will actually be with us on this one, and that's when we talk to James Lindsay, who I think is brilliant. I want to marry his brain. James Lindsay, please let me marry your brain. I think you are just brilliant. And he did a couple of fake articles that were hoaxes on some pretty ridiculous studies that he tried to highlight some issues that were going on in academia and those sort of things. And there was one study where it talked about the discrimination between that people can get when dogs hump each other, which I thought was brilliant in its comic value, but I had no idea how it made it to the to be accepted. But there were like 20 articles, 11 of them I think got accepted. I
think it was 5
profound number.
Got accepted.
5.
The ones that are astounding to me are the ones where they literally plagiarized Mein Kampf. And 2 of them, they literally plagiarized Mein Kampf and submitted them, and nobody caught it. and one of them got published. They plagiarized
Right.
Mein
Wow.
Kampf. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
this is why this is going to be an amazing show, and you guys have to watch, because you're going to be able to see just the links that they went to do this hoax, and the amount of the ones that were accepted. One of them won an award, right? There was one that won
Yeah.
some type of award. I don't know. It's crazy, but James Lindsay will be with us on December the 10th, so look out for that. Okay, we're going to do a show tonight that I think is going to fascinate everyone. I was certainly fascinated last night when Shannon posted her video. If you haven't seen it, the link to it is in the description, so make sure that you do that. But I wanted to kind of let her explain what's going on with this really bizarre Christian organization. And Shannon, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
All right. Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of highlight what's going on here. And Steve, too, I guess, or whatever. So I wanted to take a minute, well, more than a minute, to kind of lay out something that I came across that I find is particularly concerning to me. Now, I'm going to start with just a proclamation that there are lots of amazing counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists of all faiths who practice ethically and do an amazing job and operate ethically and within the constraints of their license and go through continuing education practices and are amazing. That is not the group I'm talking about today. I'm going to be talking about a very particular sect of Christian counselors, and you'll see why I have the air quotes as I progress. So I've prepared a slideshow, and I'm going to tell you before we go into that slideshow how I came across them. So I did a podcast on Sir Skeptic's channel with him and Ocean Keltoy, where we discussed the issues about mental health issues and how they're dealt with in the churches and some of the positives and negatives. And during the pre-show conversations, they introduced me to a Christian counselor. And I didn't realize that Christian counseling was even a thing. I didn't realize that they had their own unique designation. So for those who don't know me, I have a background in psychology. I have an honors degree in psychology, and my background's in perceptual cognition and communication theory. And so I decided to have a look at it. And what I found was upsetting. So it's going to take a little bit to lay out exactly what's going on, because there's a lot of layers to this. So I guess I will just kind of start explaining. So Dave, do you mind putting up the first slide for me, please, if you can? So this is Richard Arno. So Richard Arno created a system called the temperament analysis system. It is now called the Arno profile system. Now, the Arno profile system is not found anywhere in any research journals, nor is this doctor. You can see he has the designation of doctor in front of his name. It is not found in any research. It's not referenced anywhere. It doesn't exist as far as secular research is concerned. Now, you can see I have highlighted there that he was awarded several honorary doctorates, because Dr. Arno, as far as I can tell, does not exist in the academic arena. I'm working on trying to figure out how the temperament analysis that he created was compiled, and I'm also working on figuring out exactly what it entails. I have a pretty good understanding already, but I'm not super comfortable yet going into it. There will be follow-up videos where I'll be breaking it apart a little bit more. But what Dr. Arno did was actually incredibly clever. So Dave, if you could go to the next slide, please. Dr. Arno and his wife created this temperament analysis system. It wasn't accepted in the secular world. It isn't something that has any sort of proven veracity or efficacy as far as academia is concerned. So what Dr. Arno did was Dr. Arno created a private school, and that private school teaches his temperament analysis system from a Christian perspective. Now, in order to be a licensed practicing counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, you need to be able to prove that you are getting continuing education in your field, you are operating ethically, there's oversight bodies that are in charge of making sure that you are practicing in an ethical way and employing the most up-to-date standards. But private school, you also need to prove that you have a education from an accredited institution that is verified to have taught you the appropriate standards for the designation of, counselor or psychologist or psychiatrist. Now, the private school sector operates very, very differently. So what Dr. Arno did was in the private school sector, he opened a school and he started to teach his temperament analysis system. Now, he opened not only the school, but he also opened the licensing body. And this is just a slide showing you that he is in fact the person who founded the NCCA, the National Christian Counselors Association. So Dave, if you can go to the next slide, please, and thank you.
You said the governing body, so he's essentially governing himself. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of, yeah, correct. It gets substantially worse as we go on. So if you are a Christian counselor, if you have gone to Dr. Arno's school through the Christian Counseling Association, you can now start charging for your services. So here is the sliding scale for Above and Beyond Christian Counseling, which is a rather large YouTube channel, and they have 3 private counseling practices where they charge clients for mental health services. So this is what you pay in order to employ their services. So Dave, if you could go to the next slide, please. And sorry, I keep looking down at my phone. This is Dr. Donald J. Ibbotson, PhD. Now, as you can see, I have highlighted what his initial qualifications were before he went into his PhD. Dr. Ibbotson went to Stanford to get an MBA, which is a Master's of Business Administration. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Those are impressive, but they have nothing to do with counseling. So what Dr. Ibbotson did, or Donald, I'm going to refer to him as Donald. What Donald did was he went straight from those to getting a PhD in Christian counseling, because in order to get a PhD in Christian counseling, you can do all of your courses online and you don't have to have any initial qualifications. Now, anybody who knows anything about the secular school world and academia would know that you could not just walk into a PhD in psychology with a background in, let's say, mechanical engineering. So Donald, Mr. Ibbotson here, he opened a Christian counseling practice. So if you go to the next slide, please.
What?
On top of having,
how's that possible, though, Shannon? That they can do this?
Okay, so I'll get a little bit ahead of myself, but that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't mess up your flow.
No.
Don't mess up your flow.
It's okay. I don't even know what my flow is because I threw this together so quickly. But essentially, what Donald did was he went from, fundamentally, as from a psychological counseling perspective is concerned, he might as well have gone from no education because he had no background in it. He went directly from that into the PhD program that you can see here. These are the programs that they offer online. You can take this all online, by the way. You can become a counselor without actually having to interact face-to-face with people. They do it all online. He paid for a PhD so that he could call himself doctor. And then he opened a practice, and his practice also is attached to the school. So Donald also enrolls students and recruits students so that, and gets a cut of the education of these students to educate more Christian counselors. So these are the programs they offer. Could you go to the next slide for me, please, Dave?
I have an actual question about this real quick, though.
Please do, yeah.
It says recommendation. does that mean anybody can take any degree they want and it doesn't matter what the criteria is because it's just a recommendation?
Essentially, yeah.
So I could go in there with an associate's and come out with a doctoral degree.
Well, they're going to want you to go through the entire track because they charge you for it.
Right. It's about the money. It's about the money, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, but ultimately, it would be preferential that you have, if you're going into a bachelor's degree, it would be preferential that you have at least a GED, because there's no qualification, there's no admissions practice that I could find. That like you essentially, if you're willing to enroll and pay, you can just do it. They even have a quick start program for their PhD, where you can just send them $250, I think it is, and they'll send you the books right away. You do not have to apply and prove that you have any base understanding of anything to do with the field, because it's not really the field. So yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the prospectus for the actual courses that they offer. Mm-hmm. They're not even, these don't even make sense. These courses that they're offering.
They don't. They're a nightmare.
They're bizarre.
Yeah.
So how would anybody even have any prerequisite coursework to even get knowledge about any of these types of classes they're offering? Because they're not your typical classes that you would find in any college. These things are just insane.
Because here's the thing, it's a private institution, and private schools in the United States, particularly private schools that are affiliated with the church, they don't fall under the jurisdiction of the state. So there's no mandate that they have anybody overseeing their curriculum. It's in fact not even a requirement for them to be accredited. These guys are accredited, but and we'll get to that, because that's another layer of fucked up. Anyway, next slide.
That's outrageous.
Please.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, no, and it gets worse. So here is their website showing you that you can have a degree, a prerequisite degree. It's not a requirement, it's a recommendation in any discipline, and enroll in the next stage. So, if I have a master's degree in engineering, I can roll right into a PhD in Christian counseling. So next slide, please. And thank you, Dave. All right, so this is the overseeing body. So you can see what they say here. They're not affiliated with any government agency, and this is who accredits the school. So these guys, I think they're called, their website is Accredit Now. That's what it's, www.accreditnow is the name of the website. Yeah, and they are actually run by a church. It's a church in Arkansas. And the gentleman who is the pastor at the church in Arkansas, if you could go to the next slide, please. This is him. This is John Schell. So this is the accrediting body. The accrediting body is that church that you see. That's the accrediting body. This is the president, Mr. John Schell. And John actually runs 2 schools as well that are accredited by his own accrediting institution, because that's how stringent the qualifications are to get your institution accredited in the private sector, especially if you operate under the auspices of a church. So next slide, please, and thank you. And this is where it gets messed up, like super duper really messed up. So this is from the frequently asked questions section of Above and Beyond Counseling's website. So here's how it works. I'm gonna start giving you the breakdown now, and then we'll go on to why it's bad. So Dr. Arno created a program that has no proven academic efficacy. He isn't really a doctor. He has honorary degrees. It has a dangerous Christian-centric focus that we'll get into why it's bad in the next couple of slides, and it's really bad because in order to be a counselor, in order to call yourself a counselor and counsel in any state in the United States, you need to be licensed. Otherwise, you'll face severe ramifications because you are not allowed to represent yourself as a counselor if you are not qualified. There's a loophole, however, and here is the loophole. Dr. Honor created an education system. He created a school to teach that education system. Then he created a licensing body. The licensing body is the NCCA. He's the president of that as well. He created this education curriculum and then created a licensing body. Now, the NCCA gives you a playbook. And here's how the playbook goes. We will give you a license after you get your PhD, whatever, so that allows you the opportunity to represent yourself as a doctor and call yourself a doctor of Christian counseling. And the playbook tells you that, this is where I start getting mad. The playbook tells you that essentially, if you want to operate with impunity, there's a couple things you need to do. There's 2 steps, because you cannot get licensed with this education in any state in the United States. There is not a state that is negligent enough to recognize this education program as having any merit at all and would not allow you to have a state or national license to practice as a counselor. But what you can do is you can attach yourself to a church. What you need to do is you need to find a church, a registered 501c3. You need to get them to ordain you in something, anything at all. You can be, here's my favorite one. This one's my legitimate favorite. You can be a minister of administration. You can be a youth pastor. Yeah, what is that? What is that even? What's a minister of administration? Yeah.
That makes no
yeah,
sense.
wait. Yeah, you can be a youth pastor. You can be a deacon, anything, whatever. They just have to ordain you
Director
in
of
something.
directors?
Yeah, whatever.
Director of
whatever.
pastor of pastors?
Anything. Yeah, anything that makes you an agent of the church. So once you're an agent of the church, you no longer fall under the jurisdiction of the state. But there's another step, because you can't just open a practice like that. You need to get the church to agree to be the overseeing body of your practice. Now, not every church is that reprehensible in their ethical standards that they would allow this, what you're about to see, because I'm going to get into what they teach and what they talk about. No, not every church is going to have such reprehensible ethics as to say, I'll sponsor this. So there's another loophole that you can fall into, and that loophole is to open your own ministry, register it as a 501c3, segregate it from the counseling practice. I wish it was funny. Segregate it from the counseling practice, and which is what Above and Beyond did, which is what Donald, our friend Donald, did. What he did was he opened Above and Beyond Ministries, and he staffed it with a couple people, and then opened Above and Beyond Counseling. That allows you to say, I am Dr. whatever. I am a licensed, because you can say you're licensed because the NSCC gives you a license. You can say, I am a licensed Christian counselor. I would like to help you with your mental health therapy. I have a PhD from an accredited institution, because technically it is. And you can start charging people. And you can start charging people. And
It's just kind of like a terminology thing where something similar like a sanitation engineer isn't a real engineer. Right?
Correct.
I mean,
yes.
so it's kind of similar to that, right? That's how I'm reading it. Because yes, they call them a civil, like a sanitation engineer. You're a garbage man, but you're not an actual engineer, as what we would expect to say. You're not going to go out building bridges and launching rockets, right? It's just not going to happen. This is just word games to me. They're using loopholes to make it sound like they have a far more authority and skills than they have.
And they're relying
the word
on
games things. That's
I hate
a little.
That's why I'm always
arguing
against
that's a little unusual.
Well, this
is
so relying on ambiguity in the language.
Exactly.
They're also relying on the fact that people won't screw with the First Amendment here. Like that's like we almost treat it like a religion in and of itself.
Well, there's a couple things I think that could be done, but.
Why do we give clergy special exemptions for this thing? So like we do realize people go to them for spiritual guidance, and I get that, right? If you're a Catholic and you want to go to a priest for spiritual guidance, far away, that's fine. I mean that's their shtick. But when it comes to mental health assessments, that's when I think the line needs to be drawn.
Yeah. Oh, and wait till you see how bad it is. I mean, there's a couple of things that could probably be done, and we can get into that later. But I really want to show people, because people are probably looking at this and thinking, yeah, so what? They're Christian counselors, right? Yeah. Wait, So
it
let's
gets
look
worse.
at some of the stuff from. Let's look at some of the stuff from their website. I didn't get into this yet in my video. This will be in the next part of the series because this deserves a series. Even here, I can only just scratch the surface. So please put up the next slide. So this is from one of the articles on Above and Beyond Christian Counseling's website. So they do deliverance ministry, and these are some of my favorite excerpts. They discourage the use of any sort of drugs that help to mitigate non-neurotypical conditions. So if you have a condition that requires you to take any sort of antipsychotic or psychotropic drug, they fall on ambiguity of language again there, and we'll get into that a bit later too. But what they preach essentially as part of their counseling practice is that everything that happens to you psychologically is the result of demons acting upon you. Demons acting upon you. Demons. I'm going to say it again. Demons. Demons acting upon you. So just read this. Yes, read what's on the screen right now. So sexual sin and the torment it brings because of I'm finding it hard to read. I'll try to read it off my phone. So sexual sin and the torment it brings because of the bonding works like a sexually transmitted disease. Just as STDs can be transmitted back and forth, so can demons. So here's my favorite part. If you skip down a little bit, and they're not just talking about psychological conditions, because you can see that it says that you can transmit bipolar disorder.
Yeah, they're not talking about personal demons in that sense of the word, right? They're talking about literal entities.
Yeah, demons are influencing you. Doctor, PhD doctor, what's his face, who is acting on behalf of God, is taking advantage of the most vulnerable among us.
This does not happen in America. This does not happen in America.
Oh, it does.
This cannot happen in America.
Oh, all over it. There are hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds. If you go on the NCCA website, they've got lists and lists. You can find several in every state. Every state doing this.
No, I think America is one of the few places this can actually happen. So,
yes. Well, and it's because of ambiguity in the language of counselor and the PhD.
I'm just wondering how bad you got to fuck up in heaven to become like the demon of herpes or something.
Oh, it's bad. That's the Jezebel spirit, based on my understanding thus far. The Jezebel spirit is the one that does that, and they have to cast the demon out of you. First, you have to cut your ungodly soul ties, though, which means cutting people out of your life. You got to cut your ungodly soul ties. Get rid of those people. They have to speak words over you. They actually perform what is tantamount to an exorcism.
We have laws to protect the elderly from abuse. How come we don't have laws in place to protect the mentally ill? Because they're taking advantage of people that are mentally ill and unwell.
Yes, they are. I'm going to get more into why that's bad. Let me just read this. This particular client, and this is another way they get around it. They're very good with their use of language. So they won't flat out make a claim. Instead, what they do, and it's very, very clever, because since they're under the auspices of the church and they're a 501c3, they don't have to release their records because everything falls under confidentiality in a clergy relationship. So nobody can ask to see their client records nor their finances, mind you. And they get charity donations. They have an entire section on their website where you can make monthly donations, charitable donations, so that they can get this, help reach more people, and on a per case-by-case basis, possibly subsidize people that don't have enough money to pay for their services. Possibly subsidize. Otherwise, who knows where I'd love to see their payroll up against their donations. I'd love to see that, but you'll never see it because they're protected. So here's a fun thing.
I think they do this with marriage counseling a lot, though. Marriage counselors do.
Oh, this is even worse than that.
Yeah.
I thought 501c3s had more public record, though, aren't they?
I don't think so if they're attached to the church, but I'm still looking into it.
Not religious.
I could be wrong.
Not if it's religious, no.
Yeah, if it's a religious
We were talking about this.
organization, I don't think they have.
We were talking about this last night with Pete Evans, who is he works for the Trinity Foundation. That's what they do. They investigate things that wrongdoings from churches. And he was saying that as under that protection for religious institutions, they're not required to put forth any type of paperwork, which to me is ridiculous.
Because
I
they
think
don't pay
that's
taxes.
right. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
If they don't pay taxes,
even,
then you have no cause to audit them.
And even he last night was saying that he's a Christian. We had him on. Pete Evans and Ole Anthony both are. Ole Anthony is a preacher, and Pete Evans was saying that he believes that the only way to keep churches from going into like what you see with televangelists, where they are doing unscrupulous things with their money, the only way to hold them accountable is to bring them into the taxation like you would any other thing. That's the only way you're going to keep them honest and to see their records. And so he was on board with that, and he's a Christian. So that's how they get away with stuff like this. It's outrageous.
It's a nightmare. And look what they say. Okay, here this was one of my favorite excerpts that I read, and there's so many. That particular client had slept with her husband 11 years before marrying him. I explained to her that sexual sin had opened the door to the infirmity spirit. So this is a spirit acting upon her years before, but the spirit did not need her body to dwell into it until its host, her husband, had died. So in this case, there was a client who said her husband had Parkinson's disease, and then when he died, she got it. And it's not communicable. So how did that happen? That's their explanation for how that happened. They also have absolutely no obligation to refer anybody for adequate mental health. They're bound to they can't tell people to go off their medications directly, but what they can do is present them with these cases saying, well, we can't tell you to go off your medication. However, in this instance, here's one of our clients who, we cast out a Jezebel spirit and we cast out a depression spirit, and here's their testimonial. And now God is in their life and they're happier. So, just think about that and come back to the next section after you've prayed on it and we'll do another deliverance ministry, which is essentially like some sort of weird goddamn exorcism based on the ones that I've watched. The Above and Beyond doesn't post any, but other ministries do. And they hold Bibles on your head and they cast out the demons. And they charge people for this, and they actively recruit people with mental health issues. So here's one of their cast off ungodly soul ties prayers, which is a nightmare. Casting off your ungodly soul ties is if you had some sort of sexual proclivity, and down the line you have to cut ties. You have to speak words to cut ties with them to get these people out of your life, because they're opening you up to the demons, and the demons are what's causing this. On top of this, they actively advocate against psychology. They post videos. They have an entire section of their website that's dedicated to telling you why you cannot trust psychology. And all. They put to slide 11.
Can I ask you a question, Shannon? Do they do that on purpose? Like, do they avoid terms like psychologist and psychiatrist and go for terms like counselor?
Yes,
how would you
ambiguous.
refer to it?
Because they can say that they are a Christian counselor, knowing full well if they present themselves with a license and a PhD and recruit people who are having mental health issues and say that they have an education, sorry, I'm getting an echo, that people are going to make the logical assumption that they're a fully trained, educated mental health professional who's approaching it from a Christian perspective. Which, if that's the case, then fine, but that is not the case. They're not disclosing what their type of education is. It's essentially beholden to the person that they're recruiting to get help or that is approaching them to do the background research and have the base knowledge to know that this is garbage. Otherwise, they're vulnerable people who are trusting the people that they're supposed to trust most, the people that are a part of their congregation who are speaking on behalf of God.
That's insane. That is insane.
And, oh yeah. Absolutely. And
it seems like it was something out of like the 1800s, you know?
It does. It really does.
It does. You can't imagine this is something you would see in the 21st century.
Yeah, and they're above board. That's what's messed up. The loopholes in the system that they found. I mean, it's brilliant. This guy made a fake curriculum, knew that he couldn't do anything with it, affiliated it with a church, created a licensing institution so that he could rubber stamp licenses, found another church to provide it essentially the artifice of accreditation, and then started recruiting people. And now it's kind of like a multi-level marketing scheme, because he'll also give you a cut if you recruit people through your counseling practice to go into the training. So everybody who is, yes, this is multi-level marketing at the expense of people's mental health. Now, tell me this. This is a scenario that runs through my head a lot of the time. So if you know anything about people who are schizophrenic frequently go on their medications and think, okay, I'm better now, right? Because the medication makes them better. So they'll think, all right, I'm better now, but I still feel, I don't feel quite myself because of the medication, and they'll go off of it. And then they'll have another episode because once the medication wears off, it sometimes takes 2 or 3 times for somebody with schizophrenia who's on clozapam or something to actually realize, okay, you know what, I need the medication, because when I go off it, I fall back in, right? Like I remit. I go into I'm out of remission at that point in time. It's the medication that's keeping me healthy and safe. Now, if you're on your first bout of that, let's say you feel better and you stop taking your medication and you start to hear voices. You're a devout Christian. You look up Christian counselors because you want counselors with a Christian perspective. You find somebody like this who has a PhD in Christian counseling. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? That just means that they have a PhD in counseling and they're a Christian. That's what that means to you. You don't know any of the background that I just laid out. You just know that they have a PhD in Christian counseling. You go into their office. At this point in time, you're not on medication. So they're under no obligation to refer you anywhere. They can't flat out tell you to discontinue medication. So in this instance, they wouldn't have to, because you're not on it at this point. You're telling people who are about to tell you that you're possessed by demons that you think you might be hearing voices. What happens next? What happens next?
People stop taking their medication and they hear voices.
And are told that God doesn't want you to take medications because medications keep you farther from God. They put you in a haze.
It seems like it's self-fulfilling, obviously.
We just got a comment in the live chat.
No psychological training to even recognize the symptoms.
Listen to this, though. We just got a comment in the live chat from exactly what you're just saying. They said medication rarely helps people. Solving the root of the issue and talking is what helps. No, they both help. You can't do one without the. Yeah, you should do one without the other. You can't.
I think there's a holistic approach to things, but
and
you cannot say that.
And you need a professional to decide if you need the medication. Sure, right. Absolutely. I think that cognitive behavioral therapy is a massively important tool. And to a certain degree, I think medications are overprescribed. But if you have some form of psychosis or bipolar disorder, or you have a severe psychological, neurological, neurotypical depression, medication might be the only thing that helps you, or medication coupled with therapy. But you know who should make that decision? An educated, licensed, practicing, not even a counselor, and those counselors can't prescribe medications. They would refer you to a doctor and a psychiatrist to get you assessed. And if you have a good one, they would go through some sort of cognitive behavioral therapy, some sort of root cause analysis. They'd follow you over time. All of those things. They're trained to recognize what the symptomology is, because they know the DSM. They know it inside out and backwards, and because they're licensed, they are required to keep up to date on the best research. These guys know nothing about psychology except for the fact that they don't want you to use it. They don't want you to pursue it. They have a video on their channel, and it mirrors on their website that says, think about this. Psychology comes from the Greek word psyche, and the Greek psyche was a Greek goddess. Now say this to yourself as a Christian. How much truth can you derive from a field that's named after a Greek god? Do you love the real God? Or are you going to trust somebody who named, and I wish I was joking, but I'm not.
Well, it's the same rhetoric that Scientology uses, same rhetoric that flat earthers uses. I mean, they all have this narrative. They're going to pick out one group that they're just going to like have a combined hatred for and use as a scapegoat. And you see the same things all the time. Like I said, look at Scientology. They're very much against this.
Not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's a business practice. This is a business. This is for profit exploitation of people. Well, yeah, with Scientology, for sure. Yes, because they don't want you to get help. Scientology is actually a good analogy. Flat earthers, not so much. That's just stupid.
Fair enough,
but
sure.
And Scientology is a fantastic analogy. Sorry, Steve, I didn't hear that. But what they're doing is they don't want you to trust psychology, because psychology might actually goddamn help you. And they want you to pay them. And they don't have any ethical standards to be beholden to.
It seems to me, why isn't there an outside body that is looking into this, like from the federal level or the state level? You know, why is this not and is this just, are they just in the United States only, or do they have international?
They're international. They're international. There's testimonials about a guy who did this and took it to the Philippines. They're international. They're international.
Yeah, the Philippines wouldn't be regulated either. Like, they'd be even worse than we are as far as this stuff goes, I'm sure.
There is nothing stopping them. They are above board. They exist in the loopholes. They can call themselves a counselor because being a counselor is ambiguous, right? Like, providing counsel could mean a lot of things, but they're presenting themselves in a mirror to a professional counselor. So if you look at a professional counselor, what are you going to look for? You're going to look for probably a PhD or an accreditation. You're going to look for an education. You're going to look for a standalone practice, because they don't have to operate out of a church. These guys have 3 locations. Only one of them has the ministry in it. The other 2 are standalone. They're not attached to a church. Just counselors.
I guarantee you that what's keeping them from being regulated or from being investigated is the fact that they're tied to a religious organization.
That's exactly it.
I guarantee you.
They're protected.
Yeah, it's Amendment 1 protections being abused.
Yeah. This is them talking about taking medication. I love how spirits cause irritable bowel system too. Spirits cause irritable bowel syndrome. Did you know that, everybody who's got IBS?
The catching bipolar from having sex, the sexually transmitted demon, is, to me, like, that should negate you from being able to give anybody advice about anything. Crossing the road, what color shirt to wear in the morning. If you say that you can catch a demon by having sex, you should not be allowed to give your opinion on anything. Nothing. Period.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you think you can catch a genetically based disease like Parkinson's or something,
demon transition it. Because you had sex with your own husband, 11 years before you got married. And he got Parkinson's. And then once that demon was done with him, because he was dead and he couldn't inhabit him anymore, the demon moved over to you. Doesn't that make sense to you, Steve? It's probably because you're not a doctor. Maybe if you were a doctor, that would make sense.
Maybe I should enroll in this course. Yeah, I'm thinking that might have to be learned in this curriculum here.
And this is how much they know about psychology. Look at this. There are disorders this is them saying there's so many psychological disorders. Psychology just doesn't even mean anything. And at the end, they're like, I looked for a list. I looked for a study that gave me a list of all the disorders, that gave a number count, but I was unsuccessful. That's how much you know about psychology. Either you know about psychology and you know that the DSM exists, because the DSM is literally exactly that. It's not a study. It's a diagnostic manual.
I have a DSM-3 here, believe it or not. It's old, but I have a DSM-3.
Oh, that is old. They're on 5 now. Yeah. But it's a manual that lists all of the pathology.
I still have it though. At least I have it. I know what it is. I read it, but not the whole thing. But I mean, I do look at it. Yeah.
But so they're saying, they're implying here that psychology doesn't even understand how to classify all this stuff. There's just so much disorders flying around. Nobody even knows what they are. They just throw medication at them. You can't trust them. They don't even know what they're doing.
Wait, doesn't the D in DSM stand for diagnostic and M stand for manual? Like
that is correct.
What's the S for? I forget.
Statistical.
Okay, there you go. It's a tool.
Yes. So what they either don't know what exists. Do you want people that don't even understand what these disorders look like counseling you? Or they know it exists and they're purposefully being obtuse because it's their goal to make you think a certain way. They're brilliant with the language. They'll say flat out, we won't tell you to discontinue your medication. However, here's a list of people that did, and they're insanely successful. And, once you feel successful, then if you want to walk away, they call it walking away because they have to find a terminology because they can't call it discontinue your medication. You can walk it out. Sorry, that's what it's called. Walk it out. You can start walking it out with help from your doctor. We can help you talk to your doctor about how to start discontinuing your medication because people staying sick is great for them because they're not going to solve anything. Not going to solve it. Oh, the homosexuality, they have the cure for that, by the way. They got the cure for that. Just drink some jelly juice and go see them, Kyle, because they have the cure for that. They also know the cause of it, apparently.
I told Shannon last night that I would be willing to try that if we could make a deal that I could put it back in once, I could get it back once we were finished doing this experiment because there's no way in hell I want to be straight ever. So if we can agree that I can put the demon back in. Like, I like the demon. Me and the demon get along just fine. Sure, have a break from him for a couple minutes. I'm great with that. But he's got to come home. That's all I'm saying. He's got to come home.
He's going to come back. He's going to come back. Well, you know what? Clearly,
would I be the null
you're not cutting your own
if I drink jelly juice, will I turn gay as a as a null?
No. You have to be fabulous to be gay. Okay. That's a prerequisite. If you don't have fabulousness in you.
Good. Because I don't really want to try jelly juice. I don't really want to know what it tastes like. I feel like I never get that taste out of my mouth.
I don't think it's a zero-sum engine, Steve. I don't think that's how that works.
Okay, good.
Well, I think that's it for my slide. I'm done with the slides. I still probably have a lot more to say, though, and I'm willing to take questions a bit more. Oh, is this what is this? Been diagnosed? Oh, yes, this is them saying if you've been diagnosed with a specific syndrome or disorder and are dissatisfied with your medical options, seek out competent, that's a strong word for you guys, competent local counseling. This is evidence that they are actively pursuing people with mental health disorders to recruit them into their counseling practice. So this isn't spiritual counseling, right? This is why I'm upset. They're not just spiritually counseling people.
No,
they're actively seeking out people with mental health issues. Yep. And presenting themselves as trained, accredited, licensed PhD counselors in standalone businesses with all the artifice of legitimacy.
They've got laws against predatory lending. They got laws against predatory things when it comes to the elderly. Why in this country do we not, in Canada too, why do they not have the similar type of anti-predatory type things because this is clearly a predatory thing.
Because it goes against religion.
There are exemptions. There are exemptions even for still religious things. Still have some things that they cannot do. I mean, obviously, there's loopholes here.
Tell me what.
Well, I mean,
they
can't tell people. They can't tell people not to get rid of their medication. They can't say they can't write out and come out and say, "Don't take your meds." Right? There are certain things they can't
against kids. The highway robbery that is performed from people who are given their life savings. There's not a damn thing that religious organizations don't get away with. I mean, how long was it that they said on that report?
They get away with it, but there are laws against it. But those laws are not. They're not being held accountable to those laws.
What law are they holding to right now, do you think, Steve? Because they're not. There's no law. There is no law. They are operating within a loophole. They found a loophole to exploit, and they are exploiting the crap out of it for profit. They created a multi-level marketing scheme with fake
that was my point, though. Why aren't there laws to protect mental health issues? Why aren't there laws out there to help people that are mentally unwell?
Call your congressman
I'm
or
agreeing with you.
whatever the
I'm
hell
agreeing
it
with you.
is,
There are loopholes
and
and there's
ask
no
them
law.
why.
That was my point. I'm agreeing. It doesn't seem
Isn't
like they're
PhD a
breaking
protected
anything.
classification? Why can they call that a PhD? It's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why isn't PhD a protected? Because I've been researching this for 2 months now, a little over 2 months now, and there's nothing protecting. I could open up a Shannon School of Thoughtlandia and give people PhDs in thoughting tomorrow if I wanted to.
Can we
I
do
could
that,
do
please?
it.
I want a degree
You
in
know what? You
thoughtness.
probably make bank.
I could do it.
By the way, Shannon, without a crystal ball, Katie just said in the live chat that if you'll send her slides, she'll write it up in an article on Pathos. So you should connect with her and
Katie, go to my video. In my video description, I am very thorough because I want everybody to know how serious I am taking this. People with mental health disorders and depression could decide not to go on medication that might help them. They could decide not to go into cognitive behavioral therapy that might help them. It's not even just about the medications.
But why couldn't you start an organization to counter?
Not going to help them.
Why couldn't you start an organization to counter this? Yeah, to get with the lawmakers to make legislation to prevent these things from being loopholes.
I would encourage you.
I mean, it'd be a lot of work. Don't get me wrong.
I don't have any power up there. I'll provide you with whatever documentation you need and whatever support you need. But I am Canadian. Your congressman's not going to listen to me.
Yeah. The thing is here. I think
all I can do is help people.
I think what's happening here is just a lack of people not being aware. I think that for some reason they've been able to fly under the radar with this. And
not anymore.
I think if the greater public knew about these practices, they would surely want to curtail that really quickly, because I don't see anybody being okay with this. Not even Christians. Not even Christians. I don't think for the most part would be okay with this.
And that would be your biggest ally on this.
People don't realize what they're doing. Yes,
if you would get the Christians,
because they're representing them poorly.
Exactly. They would be a huge ally.
They can open their own ministry. They don't even need it, because most churches aren't going to sign on for this nonsense. They're not going to say, yeah, sure. No. Tell people that might have schizophrenia that they've got demons inside of them. Great idea. Tell people to just completely disregard an entire segment of academia because sometimes words have Greek origins. It's like, sure, yeah, absolutely, I'm on board. But great thing about America is you can start a church of fucking anything. And just
that's true.
Be a church. Just be a church. You just need to fit minimum criteria, and then you just get to be a church. You just get to be a church.
Yeah, that's true.
And the thing is, there's no regulating body for that, and that's where I think that you need a body to look into these types of things, because, like Shannon said, this is potentially harming untold amount of people. Because and it hinges on one crucial thing, and what you said, Shannon. When people are looking like online or however they're searching for something, if they have an event that happens in their life and they have for whatever reason turned to religion, that's going to be one of the things in their searches. They're searching for people, a Christian. That's a perfect search term, Christian counselors, or and this is going to be what pops up. And I think that's ludicrous. I mean, the whole thing is just bizarre.
Do you have any idea what their actual base is as far as the people? How much people do you have in Rome? I mean, how many enrollments do they have? Do you have any idea? I mean, I'm looking at their board. They've got more people on. I mean, they have a huge board.
Oh yeah, because it's a massive industry. It's an industry. It's an industry that's been flying under the radar at the expense of people that need legitimate mental help, because they're actively recruiting people that need mental health care. Actively recruiting them. Like that can't be more clear at this point. They flat out said, if you are not satisfied with medical options, come see a qualified counselor. They're relying on the fact that people aren't great at researching and advocating for themselves, and that they're trusting. And they are. People see that they're affiliated with the church, and they've got a PhD, and they're and they went to an accredited institution, and they have a license, and those are the things that they're looking for. Those are check, license, accreditation, education, PhD, Christian. There's a million Christian counselors who are fabulous.
I think there's the biggest issue with in terms of the predatory situations that churches often get themselves involved with. There's a key thing, and we talked about this last night too. There's a key thing that they play on or that they look for, and desperation. When people are desperate, same thing with like last night we were talking about televangelism. People go to those because they have no other option, because either they've been told there's nothing more they can do medically, or something like that. So that they're going to this like, this is my last shot. If I just pay whatever it costs to show them that I'm willing to do it, then they prey on desperation. That's what a lot of these churches do. They prey on people who are desperate and looking for that last. That last chance.
People are throwing Hail Marys because they're desperate in their lives, and they're looking towards their religion, and they're looking towards God, and they take a chance at counseling, maybe because they were recruited, maybe because they searched it, whatever reason. And then they encounter these people don't have any training that's of any value that I can see. And if anything, they have training that's contra to the mental health of these people who are vulnerable and desperate, and they have no obligation to and are not incentivized to direct you to somebody who can help you. And even if they would, they're not trained to recognize the symptoms of real mental health disorders, because they either refuse to acknowledge the existence of the DSM or they don't know it exists.
Right. How much does this cost, Shannon? Like, if somebody wants to do this course, how much do they charge for this course?
Oh, I had slides for that. Let me go see if I can find it. I think it's between per segment, and it's broken off in segments. Each component is broken off in segments. They're about 800 per segment. So by the time you're all done, you could essentially go from GED to PhD for about 10,000. So that at that point you're invested. So you're incentivized to sell it if you're going to get a kickback, and you really need to find some people to counsel at that point, because you're in the hole and you can go work anywhere.
But comparatively speaking,
okay, see them?
Yeah, I was going to say comparatively
per
speaking,
course,
though.
but each segment.
Per course.
One at a time. Yeah. One at a time.
Per course, yeah. And each course is part of, like, you need like 5 or 6 for your degree, and then you need another 6 or 7 for your master's.
Phase 1 is $1,700. Phase 2 is $1,600. Phase 3 is $1,400. Then when you add them all up, it's about 10,000 because there's 7 phases.
How does that compare to a normal, like if they went the academic way, the real academic way? How does that compare?
Cheaper. Way cheaper and way faster.
I was going to say, comparatively speaking, a PhD is almost 6 figures right now.
I spent $10,000 for my GI Bill, and I didn't even finish my degree. So.
Yeah. That's even worse though, because that gives people a more incentive to go this route. You know what I mean? Like that's even
especially the people
crazier.
Doing it. The people doing it may not even realize they may legitimately want to be a counselor and see this Christian counseling thing, because you have to dig to find the loopholes that they use. You have to dig. It took
Shannon.
It took me over a month.
Let's be real, Shannon. Though, to be the people who want to be a real counselor have to be smart, and smart people don't fall for bullshit like this. So I think we can phase those people out.
They could have it in their heart that they want to do good, though, and think that this is the right choice, right?
Yeah,
and they're say, "Oh, good, I can be a Christian counselor for cheaper." Yeah. And they could not realize that their license is worth shit. They could really, unless they've really deeply looked at the playbook that they hand out, their catalog, they could not realize, because as far as they're concerned going into school, because that's how they sell it to people, they're going to be licensed for sweet, the actual fuck all, but licensed.
But it's kind of like going to like a local hospital and applying for a job and saying that you're a doctor because you're a witch doctor. What's the difference?
Yeah. It's
like
I'm so mad. I don't understand why more people aren't screaming. Everybody scream with me. Why am I the only one mad?
You're not. Everyone in the live chat is pissed off. Is pissed off as well. You have 315 people mad at you too.
Thank you. Be mad with me. This is awful. These are vulnerable people. These are people who need our help the most. People with mental health disorders are already stigmatized, and they already don't know where to go to find help. It's already hard to even ask for it to begin with. And then I find this garbage, and it makes them worse. Or it doesn't help them.
How did you find it? Yeah, that's a good question. How did you run across it?
Goddamn Cirrus.
Goddamn, it's always fucking Cirrus, right? Always blame Cirrus.
squirrels.
Goddamn you, Cirrus.
Always the squirrels.
Cirrus,
Always the
if
squirrels.
it's up to me, Cirrus is going to be single-handedly responsible, though, for letting me know, and I'm telling everybody who will listen to me, because this is not
Shannon,
okay.
The entire live chat right now is ahhing, like all of them in all caps. So there's a on the count of three, everybody type A-A-A-A-A-A-A-H and hit enter. Let's see all of you scream. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's just get it out, people. Get your rage out.
It's bad. This is
pretty much what they do in these courses, too. This is how they counsel people.
Tell people about it. Share my video. I don't even care if you share my video. I don't even care if you watch my video. Just open up my YouTube page, pause my video, and go through the links in the description and look for yourself. I'm not lying. This is insane. Tell people about it before somebody gets really hurt, if they haven't already or are currently being hurt.
I agree.
Getting the demons cast out of them.
I know that some people are jaded on that. They feel that even if they did call, it wouldn't do any good. But if enough people call, it will, because the number one driving point for congressman or senator is reelection. And if they think that that's in jeopardy, then they get to step in pretty quickly. And I understand that jaded feeling. Yeah.
And you can also
here's a proposition that I have. I don't understand if there's any way to protect the designation of PhD. That would be an international thing. That's probably too hard. But here's something that you could do. You're not allowed to have a free standalone business that charges for anything other than goods attached to a church. If a church wants to have a used clothing store or whatever, fine. But you're not allowed to have a freestanding business segregated from your church that charges for services, for counseling services or whatever, that charges for them.
You want a product only rather than service based.
Yeah, product only. You can have your baked goods store, have your used clothing store, but what on earth would you need to have as a church? What on earth as a church do you need to have a freestanding business that's charging for services for? What service?
I don't take any umbrage with that at all.
You should not be allowed for a charge for service business attached to no.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the nominal fee, like for marriages, like if because I have no problem with that. Like nominal fee, like $20.
What freestanding building do you need for that? What freestanding building do you need for that?
You don't.
Detached from the church. You don't.
No, you don't.
No, tax the
church.
That's
a quick solution.
And tax the church.
I don't think that's going to happen, but there might be legislation that'll stop them from that.
Probably won't.
But I think also that like when like you get the information to Katie and she writes an article, people need to start sharing those things as well. I put them on my Facebook from Pathos, and share them. I mean, it's not that hard to take a link and share it on your Facebook. It takes
people
2 seconds.
If they can mirror your video. People ask if they can mirror your video, Shannon.
Yeah, you can marry it. I'm sure.
No, mirror.
Mirror. I don't know what mirror means. What does that mean?
It means they take it and post it as well to put it out there.
Oh yeah, sure, whatever. They'll tell people. I don't care.
You would have to change it to like Creative Commons. It would be the best way to go about that. But yeah,
I don't know what that means. I'm garbage at YouTube.
Can you put that? Can you put that image that I sent to you, David, of the response from the National Counseling Association up on the screen real fast? So I sent a message yesterday to after me and Shannon talked about her coming on here, and I sent a message to the National Christian Counseling Association, and this is their response right there. So as you can see, they were not interested in coming on to having a talk about it. Now there are two ways you can look at this. One way is that they've seen our channel before, or they went and investigated us and saw that this might be not something that they wanted to be interested in. But there's another thing too. I think, and what I found is that most places that are willing to come, like if you're a company or an association and you have nothing to hide, you fully stand behind everything that you do, 9 times out of 10 you're going to go on and you're going to talk about it, because number one, you're getting your message out there to people who may hear it, and two, you have nothing to hide. but to just not even ask any questions about it, not say, you know, what angle are you going with, anything like that. Just, nope, thanks for the invite, we're not interested. That means that you are not open to any type of scrutiny. Therefore, you're dishonest. Right, Dave?
Yeah, that screams we know this is a scam. We're not interested. To
right.
me.
Yeah. So even they know, you know, they're not even oblivious to their own fact that they're deceitful bitches.
I'm so mad. Like, how can you not see that it's for profit? Like, they have a charity. I gave Dave the link, but I didn't have a chance to take a screen capture of it. They have, most of them, Above and Beyond in particular, has a charitable section of their website where they take monthly or one-time donations so that you can help them reach more people. What does that even mean? Help us reach more people. Here's money. Oh, I just reached 3 more people. What mean advertise? What does that even mean? And also says that we might, maybe on a case-by-case basis, you know, subsidize people who need therapy. So yeah, give me money as a charitable donation so that if somebody maybe can only pay me part, because that's not what they're not doing it for free. If somebody can only pay me part, I can use your money to pay myself to be an asshole.
Isa, like in the chat, asked, wanted to know what your feelings were about pharmaceutical companies advertising on TV.
It's really hard for me to express my feelings.
You're so subtle. You really need to put yourself out there more and, you know, be boisterous in your opinions.
Open up a little bit. Open up a little bit.
Sure.
That's a charity link. I think the Warrior.
I'm not into this profession. Can I kind of weigh in on the whole advertising on TV from my perspective on it, from a completely, you know, non.
Yeah, but let's get Shannon's. They wanted to know about Shannon. Let's get Shannon's first, and then we'll let you jump in, Stephen. You can.
She didn't want to
explain your feelings on it. You don't want to, Shannon?
I didn't want to. I just got to. No, I'm fine doing it. I just got distracted by the charitable thing going up on the screen. There's something shiny. I don't have an issue with what. I don't have an issue with them advertising on television because it's a decision that should be between you and your doctor. Them advertising is not a problem for me. You need to find a good doctor that's willing to have conversations with you about the pharmaceuticals that you use. So,
I was going to say something similar. I don't have a problem with them advertising, but the advertisement is basically going, hey, you know what? You should ask your doctor about this. But I've always thought to myself, if the doctor is competent and on top of things, they are already aware of these types of medications and should be able to get you the best possible medication for your particular symptoms. And you're going to them and saying, hey, what about this medication? I don't think really should make a difference to a doctor. They should already have that, you know, information.
Here's an addendum to that, though.
You know.
No, here's an addendum to that, though, Stephen. It's something. Okay, good. Then
I was just going to say, what I don't like is the deals that the pharmaceutical companies do with doctors. You know, like when they go into give them the samples and push this medication or give them any kind of incentive to do that. That I think is egregious. But the advertising on TV, I don't have a problem with it either.
Here's one thing, and an addendum to yours, though, Steve, is you're right. A good doctor should be able to recognize symptoms. However, somebody, hopefully, if they're not, you know, a little bit, you know, prone to you know, I can't remember the word for it right now. Oh my gosh, I'm so worked up. I can't even remember the word. Yeah, that's the one. But if they're not prone to, if they're not a hypochondriac and they're seeing a drug advertised that lists off symptoms, those may be symptoms that they may not have necessarily imparted to their doctor, and them going to the doctor saying, hey, I saw this drug that says it does this and these are the symptoms. They may not have thought it was an issue, and they bring it up to the doctor, and that may spark a further conversation that even doesn't ultimately lead to that drug, but at least bring some new symptoms to light for the doctor.
Let me give you an addendum to the addendum.
Let's addendum the shit out of this.
I don't. A PS to a PPS to a PPPPS. I don't think. I don't think that. I don't think that you even have to be a hypochondriac. I think that is kind of a human nature. When people see stuff,
if you're not,
but isn't it not true that most people, their brains go, you know what? I seem to match these criteria. They put a corollary there for some strange reason.
That's what I was trying to say. I didn't articulate it well. I guess I said, if you're not a hypochondriac, if you're a hypochondriac, you're going to drive your doctor nuts because you're going to recognize your symptoms and everything. But
I have
if
every
you're- if
disease
you're-
known to man.
Yes. If you're
By the way-
not a hypochondriac, then it might be a good way to start conversations because you might
I got
recognize
you.
something that you didn't
Okay.
otherwise think
That
of
makes
or tell
sense
your
to me.
doctor about prior. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Here's some
Fair.
advice, guys, too. By the way, don't ever, if you want to know what your symptoms is causing, never Google it, because you will, by the time you're done, you will have a migraine and come out with prostate cancer and diabetes.
According to
and
women,
never do that.
MD, I have every genetic disorder there possibly is.
Oh my God, that explains so many things.
Yeah, Steve saw a drug
Everything just
advertisement. Steve saw
Yeah.
a drug advertisement and thought he was a woman afterwards. So I mean, come on now.
Oh man, what an ugly woman, Steve!
God.
What an ugly woman. I'm kidding.
Wait, I can't
you.
change my gender on the
Pretty.
fly. I could be. Thank you. I'm getting a lot of compliments lately. People have liking the hair. Again, I give credit is due. It's because I condition now, thanks to Kyle. Often.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Kyle, get your shit
Yeah,
straight.
Okay.
People think we're kidding. Did we not have this conversation, Kyle?
No, I don't. I know. I
Condition.
believe you. I know both
really
of you
have-
well
we have
enough
a
to
lot
know
of
that's
weird-
true.
We have a lot of weird conversations that we definitely shouldn't have sometimes, I don't think. But
I was like,
yeah.
hey, Kyle, I'm going to go for a Brazilian blowout. He's no, just condition twice should be fine. That's like
Did I say it like that, Steve? Did I say it like that? Or what are you doing right now?
Over the
We
top.
talked about this.
Hyperbole.
You're attributing a stereotype.
Emphasis.
You're attributing a stereotype to
That's one
me
stereotype
because
that's
I'm
quite
gay.
true.
Do you think all Asians are bad drivers too, Steve?
No, but I think all gays are fabulous. Is that okay?
Whatever. That was a hate crime. Okay, I'm just telling you. You committed a hate
You
crime.
got to think about that. Wait a minute. Where do I go with this one? I don't know what to say.
It's a microaggression.
I always know what to say.
Micro.
You know what you need, Steve? You need some
Oh.
Christian counseling. I think you need some Christian
I
counseling.
think so.
Don't do it. No.
Again,
Don't.
can you show these courses?
Or do it and
Did you
go
do a slide
undercover and send it to me so I can expose that.
Did you get a
That's
slide
a
for the
good idea.
coursework? Can you show these people what some of the names of these courseworks are?
Oh, it's fucked.
Dave,
What
can
is it?
can you
I don't
show
know.
that
I
if
don't
I
have
I-
a slide of it.
I
Do
don't have a
one?
slide. No, you'd have to like.
if I send you a
I flew it
HTML?
together so fast.
Here, that's the
Yeah,
some
some
so-
course names are insane.
Someone in the live chat
Their
just asked if I
temperament
was
analysis
gay.
is a mess.
How's this a thing?
No, it's not.
Yes.
It's
I
not.
am.
He's not. He has a demon in him. He's not.
He's just confused. Yeah.
I spend more time
He's a
convincing people that
demon.
I am gay than I do that I'm not. Usually it's the other way around. Usually people have to, no, I swear I'm not gay. I swear.
He's so proud of it. Yeah, I swear to you, I really am gay.
Yeah, please. I can
Why
show
shouldn't
you.
you be
I can
proud
prove
of
to
it?
you that I am. I can prove that. That is demonstrably
Not to me.
provable.
Oh, Kyle.
All right, Dave, were you going to put that up or should we? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the NSCC site.
This is just the bachelor's one, but you know what? The names are the same for the PhD. There's really no difference.
Oh, well, yeah. Probably not. Yep. There's path one
And
to
it,
your
get,
bachelor's
and
degree.
it gets worse than that.
And look how
it
they
gets
show
worse.
a graduation like you actually graduate. It's all online. That's like, you don't get, there's no gown involved. They probably email you your PhD when you're done. Honest to goodness. Yeah. Certified temperament counselor certificate. Phase 1. So right away, you get your certification certificate. Part A of phase 1. Here's your certificate. Start a counseling. Work your way up to being a doctor.
Outrageous.
Yeah. Oh, and
That's
then they have
outrageous.
seminars. They have seminars. I went on one of their sites. There's so many layers to this. Oh my God. Wait till my student. Like there's so much to address. They had a seminar and I took a screen capture from it. They had a 3-hour segment after lunch. It was like a lunch and learn to teach Christian counselors how to address bipolar disorder. 3 hours of a day-long seminar was teaching people how to deal with bipolar disorder. 3 hours.
Did you look up at these temperament things, these temperament positions?
Oh, yeah.
Melancholy
I
suggestions,
did.
phlegmatic suggestions, sanguine suggestions, supine suggestions. These are all types of they're
It's
legit
the
words.
equivalent
But
of horse-
they have these words have no meanings the way they're using them.
They
Looking
don't
at
have
this,
any
this is
meaning.
crap.
They're ambiguous as balls. So
Exactly.
they believe. Yes. So anybody, it's the equivalent of horoscopes. Anybody can identify themselves in any of the temperaments, really. So they give you a questionnaire. The questionnaire is, I can't remember how many questions off the top of my head because I'm all worked up, but they give you a questionnaire. I have a copy of it. And it takes about 8 to 10 minutes to do this questionnaire. So that takes out all the hard work of actually getting to know your patient. 8 to 10 minutes, they fill out a questionnaire. You take that questionnaire and plug it into the Arno profile system, and it shows you where each of their needs, because there's 3 main needs, fall on this chart that has like the phlegmatic temperament and the melancholy temperament and the supine temperament, and where each of those fall, that tells you what type of demon you're most susceptible to. And then it's like,
oh my God,
it's like
this is so fucking bizarre.
They're like psychics, right? Like, you know how psychics are like, yo, I sense that you have a relative whose name starts with A and they're trying to come through to me, or there's an A in the name. It's something like that. Like they can ask enough leading
Starts
questions.
with a letter, I think. I'm getting letters.
Yes. That you'll find yourself in the questions because there's enough ambiguous personality nonsense mixed into this temperament analysis that you'll be like, yeah, that does sound like me. Because it sounds like everybody a bit.
That is exactly when I'm reading this. That's the same exact image I get. It's ambiguous as fuck.
It's like they have a PhD in tricking people into thinking they know what they're talking about.
This PhD stands for pretty humorous degree or diploma.
I mean, listen to some of these sage advice here, Shannon. Love this. Learn to recognize anger as anger.
Yeah,
genius.
Because I thought that I was really happy right now. I was feeling super content at the moment.
I'm reading this verbatim. Learn to recognize anger as anger and deal with it constructively in ways pleasing to God. Oh,
pleasing to God.
Could I
I don't think I'm dealing with it in ways pleasing to God right now.
Can I apply for their hosts of hosts degree? You know how they're saying they have, you know, like an administrative degree. I'd like to be
not the
host
degree.
Of hosts.
That's how you get to practice legally. Is you have to get yourself ordained as something. So you'd have to get the degree is separate. You get the degree, and then you can't do shit with the degree until a church ordains you as whatever the fuck.
Do they have a list of unscrupulous churches that will do this, that will ordain you for their behalf, or do they?
Oh, they have a list of suggestions. Absolutely.
Okay, go figure.
Yeah,
you know what we should do? Oh, I have an idea. You know what we should do? We should create the Church of Non-Sequitur. We should see how easy it is. We should see how easy it is to I'm serious. We should see how easy it is to create a church.
I'm okay with that.
Let's do this. Okay, we're going to see how easy it is.
As long as I become a minister, I don't
Non-Sequitur.
Yeah,
there's certain things you need to meet. You need to have a meeting place. I'm pretty sure this counts as a meeting place because I don't think it needs to be a physical location.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure that this counts. You need to have like a mandate or a doctrine and never follow. That seems pretty good.
We have a doctrine.
Yeah, and there's a couple other ones because I was looking at it because I couldn't believe that they could just open their own ministry, but I didn't look at it long and hard because that wasn't the important part. There you go.
Dumpster fryer to lead it.
And you need to have like some sort of and then you can start taking charitable donations, and you can open your own counseling practice just to show everybody how messed the hell up this is. You can do it.
What we should do?
And you can start taking donations, and I can be your counselor.
Right, but here's what we do: we take those donations and we put it to organizations that counter what this is.
Yes. Yep. Let's do it. I'll help. Let's do it, and we'll demonstrate how messed the hell up this is.
This is what I said from the beginning. Make an organization to counter this stuff, and do it this way would be one way of possibly doing it.
Yes, and I can't say this enough again. There are amazing Christian counselors out there. There are amazing counselors who are Christians. This isn't that.
Somebody in the live chat just said the Church of Non-Sequitur spells out cons, C-O-N-S. I love it.
That is good.
That is fantastic.
Yes, it has to happen. Has to happen.
Bravo.
Has to happen. Yes, well done.
Okay, well, I'm going to look into this, and we'll definitely make this happen. We will have we'll take the donations that are sent to the Church of Non-Sequitur, and we'll put them towards Shannon. Maybe you can find us an organization that would be good to kind of pledge that to. It doesn't have to be right now, but you can.
Probably not.
Pope Kyle. I like that, Pope Kyle. Okay,
I'm
have
sorry
Pope
I
of
got
Gnosticism.
I
yelly.
accept.
Sorry, guys. I'm usually
accept.
nicer. I'm sorry.
We all
I
get a
got
Pope
yelly.
title because I'm Pope of Agnosticism. He's Pope of Non-Sequitur. You're Pope of Thoughtism.
I accept.
Sure. I'm the
I
queen of
accept your role.
Thoughtlandia.
You're the queen of
Okay, so let
Thoughtland.
me read these super chats real quick, and then Shannon will let you have the last word for any kind of last minute thoughts or
Sorry.
any more rage that you would like to impart on this. Okay.
I think I'm done.
All
I
right.
think I got it all out. Thanks.
Raged out.
All right, let me summon Lord Rael.
Oh God.
These are called diploma mills and are super common in the United States. That's from Without a Crystal Ball for $5. Sigfrido Serbia. Does the field of psychology not have a specialty known as the spiritual psychologist? That seems no different from what you present without conforming to the field of psychology. How is it any different?
We don't have
Shannon?
a field called spiritual psychology. Not that I've ever heard of.
Boom.
There's no field called spiritual psychology. There's psychologists who might study aspects of spirituality to see what, drives people to it and what effect it has on people. But there's not a field of psychology called spiritual psychology, not in any institution I've ever been in or any counterparts I've ever discussed it with. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think that. I don't even get that question. Like, what?
I haven't heard of it either. There might be psychologists that have a basis of therapy that's rooted in more spiritual basis, but there's there's not a different path to be a spiritual psychologist.
No.
That wouldn't make sense to me either.
No.
Okay, Sigfrido Sarabia also says, what is a humane way to deal with psychopaths that doesn't involve sending them away or making zombies on Zyprexa, Haldol, Ativan, Zoloft, or Risperidol?
You can do all kinds of rational therapies with psychopaths that might help, but that would go on a case-by-case basis. So a lot of psychopaths don't hurt people. People think that they hear psychopath and they immediately think murderous, rampage, serial killer, and that's not the case. There's lots of people who have psychopathy who are fully operational because they still have rational components to their mind. They understand that they need to operate and exist within societies, and that's a benefit to them. And a lot of them are all about things being of benefit to them. I really dislike giving broad, general answers to these types of questions because psychology is very much an individualized practice. We do everything that we can to learn as much as we can about how people think and how people operate, but there's still, it's still a very individualized practice because we're all different. So I don't think that they all need to be locked away. I think that it's a misnomer to think that they do. They just feel things differently and think things differently.
And Andrew Batella, in response to our sexually transmitted demon, says, I'm sorry. I can't do it raw. I'm bowel positive. That's good.
Oh, God.
Wellington Smith. This happened to me, a sexually transmitted demons cast out and forced to go to Jeebus counselor for guess what? This happened in Silicon Valley, California. Give them hell, Shannon. Give them hell, Shannon.
You got an STD demon. Fuck.
Yeah. Says that Frito says, why should a church declaring itself as a business be subjected to financial regulation apart from any other successful business?
They should be. That's another thing. Get them to open up their books, but so long as if they can charge for services, that's what gets me. Like, I can't understand why they get to charge for services, and it's probably because the legislation is so ambiguous, because they open up charity shops, right, and sell used clothes, and they open up bakeries, and churches do those types of things, and great, awesome if they use the money for the community or whatever, fine. But this falls under the same banner because the language in the legislation that should give any sort of donation that would segregate this type of service out from a goods and service exchange that they were using for charitable purposes. So they're allowed to operate with impunity. They're just talking nonsense to people who need real help for money. Talk to people,
Bizarre.
call people, say this is insane. Tighten up the legislation.
I really could
Brantley
actually.
says,
Real quick, I could actually really make something for this the Church of Non-Sequitur and cons using just a bunch of amphibly and nonsensical terminology philosophically to make it sound quite legit, and use that as part of the creed stuff. And people might act, and see how easy it is to. I mean, because I'm reading these terminology they're using. It's just fucking bizarre, people.
I'm serious. As soon as we close out of here, I'm going to send a message to Imraz, who is a lawyer, and ask her her advice on how I should approach this, because I'm really going to do this.
We can't take the channel that way because then like super chats and all that stuff become nonprofit, and this is not a nonprofit.
It'll be completely. It's completely separate.
You can have separate entities.
Yeah, it's completely separate. Sure.
Yeah, separate.
Yeah.
It's going to be its own thing. Okay.
You can essentially
Brantley
just
says,
rent this channel as your like how a church can rent a hall to hold
as a forum. Yeah, rent it as a forum.
As a forum, you could rent your own channel as a forum for your church, and just say a little quick non sequitur prayer at the beginning of each show, and you're essentially just renting. Or you could donate your space. That way you can
our dumpster fire, who art in heaven, how hot is your flames?
Operate within these loopholes because they exist. Tighten them up, or we'll all just exploit the shit out of them.
As soon as we close out of here, I'm going to look into it. We will have the Church of Non Sequitur. So the congregation. Oh, that's
I'm so glad I got to be here for the inception of this.
That's
Something good is coming from my
congregation.
The congregation. Yeah.
That's excellent. Okay.
Violently
Brantley says, hi. Oh yeah, it's already going through my head. Hi Shannon, great work. Please buy her a beer. We definitely will buy her a beer. Sprays EMCG. Thanks for reinstating my name after being wrongly booted by the Bullinator, a fat tire. Bullinator, who you been pissing off now? 0 1 3 2 1 3 2.
Bullinator's on the warpath lately. He's like,
it's buy as in give me money for a fat tire beer is what he's trying to take. Because I
like fat tire beer.
I revoked his ban is what happened because he was banned wrongfully.
Do you drink fat tire? Blue Nun? Those are really good.
I do.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. You just need a period after that booted part. Sprays. Otherwise, I will continue reading it. 0 1 3 2 1 3 2. I've seen It Follows. I know STD demons are real. Good movie. It Follows. Very scary. Michael Harrington. Boom. Fredo says, how can someone with mental problems enroll themselves? Well, that's very simple. They just do it.
Yeah, they're functional. Just because you have mental problems doesn't mean you're not socially functional and stuff.
Do you think that everybody with a mental health disorder isn't completely unaware of what's going on around them?
Yeah.
I probably have like 8 mental disorders that I'm not even aware of. I mean, that's very likely.
That's a
we probably have mental disorders that we don't even have names for yet.
You definitely do. DSM,
yeah, it's gonna be like the DSM.
The DSM definitely anyway, so. Who knows?
Okay.
We all just
Wellington
doesn't matter. Nobody knows.
No one knows.
Fredo just answered that with the live chat saying, "Kyle, your voice is on point. I declare the Lord of your. I declare the Lord of your. I declare you the Lord of God. I declare the Lord of your God." Thank you. I'm going to assume that by that you meant I am Lord now. I'm just going to take that assumption. So bless you, child. Bless you. Wellington Smith says, like if you find this interesting or informative. Without a crystal ball. This is a diploma mill. Without a crystal ball again. This is woo psychology. Playing on the same people all woo scammers do. It's gross. I agree. Very gross.
Yeah, and if you, I'll tell you what, if you give up like woo, or you give up creationism, or you give up flat Earth, we'll personally absolve you of of your sins against science and the world, and we'll go through a process. We'll get absolution.
Vegan atheist says, says Frito again. Says Frito, man, you are super chatting it up today. Thank you. Says bust. AC Castillo. house.gov/representative/find your representative. So there you go. There's the link to talk to your
Get mad
representative.
with me.
And then finally, Jake 3D says, you cannot discriminate services for the church. Many legit services like speaking, debating could be an off-site affiliated business. Need a better solution.
It wouldn't be standalone.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be standalone. Yeah. But I don't have the answer. I just know it's a problem. If you have a better suggestion, give her. This is what I say when I'm managing people. Don't come to me with the reason why my solution isn't going to solve the problem. Come to me with a better solution. Or we still have a problem. Great critique, awesome. I completely get it. It's valid. But propose something else. Help fix the problem. Don't just tell me why it can't be solved.
Yeah, there's kind of a rule of thumb, even when you're doing an analysis of something, that when you point out a problem with somebody's analysis, you should actually go out of your way to show a better way to correct it and to word it differently to help them out. Same thing with problem analysis. Just pointing out there's a problem is step one, but if you don't provide a possible solution, then it doesn't really do much good unless it's something that nobody ever noticed before. It's like you're pointing something new and novel that like, oh, wait, we never thought about that. Let's get a group of people together and maybe we can come up with a solution. That's one thing. But if you're just there pointing out problems that people probably are aware of, you're not helping to contribute to solve the problems. Give some
and I'm sorry that I got worked up. That's a valid point about my suggestion. It's the best I can think of. I'm sorry I got worked up, but
don't be sorry. You have nothing to be sorry about. You have nothing to be sorry about. Nothing.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Steve, maybe the dumpster. Oh man.
Get it together, Kyle. Get it together. Jeez.
You ever like
a mess?
That pained me right there.
Your voice is probably stuck in that. No, you're right.
Lord Rael probably descended a demon upon you because
he won't be able to turn that voice off. He's your eyes crossed.
Pleased with your
J3D. That would be funny, wouldn't it? What happened to your voice? I just did YouTube way too much. I apologize. It was all the flat earth and crazy Christians that did this. I blame them. I'm forever damned to order beer like this. Can I get a Jack and Coke, please? Yes, to the William Shakes. I sound like a Renaissance Festival outcast. You know, like the guy that just wasn't good enough to be even an extra in a Renaissance Festival. That's me. Jake 3D says in another super chat, I have the solution, but there's not enough characters in super chat. So, Jake, if you want to email it to me, it's live@nonsexshow.com. I'll forward it to Shannon. You can do it that way, and I can connect you too. That way you can talk back and forth.
And
okay,
like
Shannon, do you have any?
Katie.
Yeah, sure.
The ball.
That's a good idea.
She's actually there. She can help me get the word out better than I don't have any distribution methods aside from my YouTube channel. So that's the best I could do. And bothering us until they let me yell about it on the channel. Although I didn't have to bother you, Carl, bless your heart. You reached out to me.
I know I did because I thought it was important. Anytime, you know, we're friends, and anytime I have a friend that wants to get something off her chest or feels like there's something she needs to get out there, we're going to make it happen. So do you have any last minute wrap-ups, last minute thoughts, anything else you want to put out there? Plug your channel and your Discord and all that stuff too.
Yeah, I have a Discord and a channel. My channel's called Shannon Q.
Great marketing.
Usually you sell it. Yeah, usually
I'm garbage at YouTube. I'm so bad at. I don't even know.
Yeah, I've got a presence out there. You can go find me on some Discord somewhere. Hi, I'm Shannon.
I think
makes people want to go do it right there. She sounds passionate. She sounds passionate.
We have evidence to the contrary that you're crap at YouTube. You got golden nuns, so there you go.
And thank you very much. You had 1,000 subscribers before you even had one fucking video. So don't tell me you're not good at video. You're like the best at video. Nobody else has ever done that.
By the way, Shannon, you know what the best part of the nuns was is that we actually had people bitching that, and these are write-ins, right? Not the multiple choice ones. We're talking about the ones where people actually had to give, you know, what they thought was the best, right? We had no control over that. We actually had some people claiming that we had bias and all that and how the winners came about. I can tell you right now, Colin had zero input on who won those awards.
Oh yeah,
not a goddamn thing.
I didn't even vote. I refused.
I didn't vote either, so I wanted to be. Shannon, I wanted to be neutral.
That's one person, Shannon. That's one person. That's just one person that said that. Just one person.
I was so
Just one person.
excited.
But
You did win.
That one person
Shannon,
is such an idiot.
It's one asshole.
That's the funniest part.
It's one
That-
asshole.
I loved it because they actually were trying to claim we had bias, and I'm trying to explain to this one idiot.
Here's the thing,
We had nothing to do with it.
Here's
You
the
actually
thing.
had to
Let me
copy
tell
and
you.
paste the link.
Let me tell you guys this. I have all of the in a detailed. Google does it beautifully. I have it detailed out to the T on who got what votes. So I am not concerned about one asshole's opinion. He can go fuck himself and jump off a bridge. How about that? That's my advice
That's
to
not
you.
hilarious. That's how pitiful it became when you have a Christian apologist, saying shit like that. It's like, okay, dude, okay,
That's
I
hilarious.
thought it was so nice.
Wait,
It was
thanks
so
for killing the mood,
exciting.
though, Steve. Thanks for killing the mood.
Yeah.
Well, if they knew who
Steve.
that one person was, it wouldn't be killing in the mood. It'd be like, yeah, that guy's a fucking asshole.
Well, we can imagine. I'm sure we can imagine. You might as well just go ahead and say who it is.
Oh, well, it was the right engine. So what does that tell you?
Oh, nobody gives a fuck about what he thinks.
That's what I'm saying. Pissing him off was the high point because
That's like
he's all
a
complaining.
compliment
Look how
coming
much
from
bias
him.
there was with the non-sequitur show that, I'm like, you're fucking joking, right?
He can barely handle breathing oxygen every day. Like that's a chore for him in itself. I'm not concerned about what his opinion is on what we do. Go fuck yourself, Whitey.
That's why I'm
Okay.
He's super nice to
So
me.
now we were in the middle of you selling your channel and sell it, Shannon. Give us give us a furious pitch.
It's a good channel. People liked it. Lots of people voted for it. I'm very passionate about what I do, and that's why I have a channel. It's called Shannon Q, and I talk about communication strategy. It's a lot less yelling usually, generally, and I have live streams, and I co-host the Heathen Hour, so go check out the Heathen Hour. We have our own channel. We stream every Saturday evening at 8:30, and we had Seth Andrews on last week, and he was really cool. And I have a Discord server, and I have a Patreon thing too, and my Patreons are super nice. They're awesome, and I like them. And yeah, and I think I have good content. Go look. But if you're gonna do anything, please go find this particular video and watch it, because I lay it out a lot better there as well, because I'm not as worked up, because I could pause and stuff. And I've got a lot of detailed links in the description, and if you're going to be contacting people about this, those will help you build a case. So watch the video. I'd suggest that you do if you want to learn more about it, because I lay it out there, and I'm going to do a series. But even if you don't want to, go look at the links. Advocate for your own understanding.
The link is in the
Steve,
video.
Go back. Maybe I'm full of shit.
And-
I could be lying.
and I-
Go make sure I'm not.
And I put the link in
It is
the live
description.
chat as well. Yeah, and I put in the link in the live
Thank
chat.
you.
And by the way, all you have to say is this: go subscribe, or demons will attach to you. There you go.
Demons
It's
will
Shannon-
attach you, and
Shannon,
you'll
I
have to
wanna-
break your ungodly soul ties. And some
I
really
want to say
expensive.
something that
You
you
don't
said a
want to
minute
do.
ago. By the way, you guys have to check out Heathen Hour too, because they have a lot of great interviews. But there was one individual that didn't really care for your Seth Andrews conversation the other day.
I love
Because
that. That was one of the best
Seth-
conversations.
Well, Seth's kind of
I haven't
called
watched it yet.
an individual out.
Oh,
I'm just giving you
how
hell,
much
Steve.
did you? How much
I have
did
to
you
watch
love
it.
that
Give it
I
to
haven't
me.
watched it. It's on my bucket list. I promise you. I like Seth, and and people don't know we've had Seth on, and I've talked to him about this but it was off air, unfortunately. So, but I know where Seth
Oh,
really
he
stands.
invited. This is another thing. Seth is a super nice guy. He invited me to go
Yeah.
on the Thinking Atheist to talk about this too. So I'm like,
good.
I'm not kidding when I'm telling you I'm going to scream to anybody who will listen to me about this. I'm not kidding. I'm in your life now, Christian counselors. You're gonna go
All
to
up in
sleep
it.
at night with this
Your
face.
Christian counselor's nemesis.
Will Paul
You-
get jealous
you
or is
found
he
what-
into that? Paul's into sharing? That's cool,
Nah.
Paul. Would it be
Well,
Would it be,
Apologia has
Paul's
Cam Ham. Apologia has Cam Ham, and now you have this. You found your nemesis to latch on to.
That's what Paul said to me.
Steve,
once.
if you're
That's how you wanna
agnostic-
kill yourself.
You're an atheist.
That's the greatest soundbite ever. Shannon, somebody in the live chat wants to know if you wouldn't mind having a debate with Orphan Red.
Orphan Red.
I don't know who Orphan Red is, but whatever. I'll talk to anybody. I don't really debate though. I prefer
She's a poet.
conversations.
She's a poet.
But I'll
They said
talk
you
to
would
her.
go
if she'd like.
So she didn't go ballistic. They thought you'd go ballistic.
Orphan Red. I've already
I don't
asked
know
about
who
how
she
to talk
is.
to her. She blocked everybody. She doesn't want to deal with anybody. She's a Poe. She doesn't believe any of this shit.
I
She
talked
does
to
it for
her.
the money.
I talked to
I
her,
don't know
and she
who
won't
she
come
is.
on here because of something happened with her and Steve. She won't come on here because of whatever
Oh,
happened with her
because
and
Steve's
Steve.
a
I don't
dick.
know
That
what.
makes sense.
I don't know what
I
you
made a
and
video
Steve.
pointing out her. I made a video called Orphan Red, Blue Skies and Orphan Red, pointing out her complete scientific literacy when it comes to certain things. And I asked her, do you want to discuss this? And she was just like, no. And we talked for quite a while, but then she's just like, yeah, whatever. She doesn't care about any of this stuff. This is a gig for her. She's literally just doing an image.
I have an important question. How do you get any guests with Steve? I mean, I'm really nice, so I talk to anybody. It must be
Most of the
hard,
time-
Kyle. I'm so sorry.
Most of the time, I tell him that he's not going to be here. Most of the time, I tell him he's not going to be here.
That makes so
Steve's like an
much
Asian.
sense.
And he just
No,
shows
it's
up.
all coming together now.
Yeah,
Okay,
wait.
I gotcha.
Didn't
Fair.
you? Wait, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you get your start on my channel? And didn't you meet your love of your life on my channel? And
I did. Actually, the first person, yeah, I was on your channel first, but then a couple months later, the first person who put me on their channel was Drew, Genetically Modified Skeptic. But then you gave me a series, Steve.
I did. And by the way,
So-
should we tell her that about the confirmation we have? I mean, she already knows, but should we tell the
No,
guests,
no.
or should we keep it a secret for her 10th special
Who?
or 11th? It would be her 11th. Let's talk about you with Shannon Q special.
Oh, yeah, you can go ahead and announce that.
Okay. Well, guess what? We actually have arranged, and I will believe right now it's on the 29th, but we have arranged for Shannon to have a conversation with, get this, Von Helton. Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know why.
Now, she doesn't know who Von
that
Helton is. She knows nothing about Von Helton. She won't look at anything in Google, and she won't do anything to spoil this. Yeah,
No.
she's going to be in for a world of surprise.
You don't know who Von Helton is?
She doesn't.
No,
No
I'm not allowed to
spoilers.
find
Okay.
out before I talk
No
to
spoilers.
them.
Let
No
me
spoilers.
give you. No, I want to give her just his get up. Okay. And first, let me answer this. Jenny Talworts, Fight the Flat Earth. We do know he was on this show 2 Saturdays ago for our first Flatter Night fights. You can go and look for that
Yeah, he's
video.
coming
It's got two globes. It's got a globe and a flat Earth boxing on the cover of it. But he was on here and he did debate Flat Out Hero. Okay, so Shannon, what if I told you that I'm going to take an androgynous cafeteria worker? You can't tell if the cafeteria worker is male or female. And then I'm going to put that in a bowl. And then I'm going to throw in a warlock cape with medallions. And we'll throw that in the bowl. And then I'm going to throw every conspiracy that is known to man in that bowl, along with a mobile home, a Mountain Dew, a fanny pack, and a Dale Earnhardt wife beater. And then I'm going to blend all that together. You will have Von Helton.
Oh gosh, that's quite the spoiler. That's all the spoilers.
He's literally the most, I think
Actually-
he's the most famous out of all of the conspiratorial people.
Actually,
but-
Shannon,
That's gotta be.
the scary part about all that is that barely scratches the surface.
Yeah, I those are little spoilers, but you know
Really?
what? It's really not, because that's just tip of the iceberg stuff. There's so
He's
much.
wearing
you
a
can find
cape
out.
with. He wears a cape and a fanny pack
Yes.
and a NASCAR wife beater, like all at the same time.
He wears all you need to know is he wears a warlock cape. It is a cape. There is no mistaking that
It was a cape.
It's a cape. Yes, it's got the hood, like the little hood thing right here, and it comes down. And yes, he wears a cape, a warlock cape, with a medallion of the, what is that, pagan, Steve?
It's a pagan.
Pagan-
symbol, yeah.
Oh, he's a pagan.
Yeah.
Well, you
You're,
just
Kyle,
no
you're
spoilers.
spoiling
No spoilers.
everything.
Yeah.
Kyle, you're the worst.
Well,
I'm
that's
not
kind of
spoiling
when you
anything.
actually
I'm not
see.
supposed to
Well, hang on,
know
when you actually
anything.
see him, that's kind of going to be giving it away. But that's nothing
Yeah,
you won't
that
notice
just
the
gives-
5 seconds.
That
of seeing
just gives
him.
you. That's a description of what he looks like.
Those are
Like,
teasers.
just a scene.
not spoilers.
I didn't tell you about anything that he subscribes to. But
The
we'll save
list
that for
is
another-
there's actually, and you can't look it up, but there's actually a list out there of all the things he has claimed over the years, and it is mind-boggling. It is gargantuan, and they keep a record.
However,
of the Von Helton claims.
I will say this: that one of the funniest moments of my life was when I was on the Drunken Peasants, and one of the videos we had to watch was Von Helton singing "Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys." Steve, you were there. You there too? When
Yeah, I watched.
weren't
I
you?
watched.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that was
So,
that was
yeah.
when I had to do the other show. But I watched that part, and I've seen Rod Helton
No,
do
I think
karaoke.
the first time, not the time I
Oh,
went there
that
by
one.
myself,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the first
yeah. I
time
remember that
we were on
one. They had an.
This
I
is
think
a
he
lot
began.
of
Played that
confusing
then.
information. He sings and
No, he doesn't
Von
sing. He
Helsing-
screeches.
He's
Von
a
Helton's the
renaissance.
he's the way I met Frankie and Bran from the Geek Room. That
oh, he
because
knows
of Von
Frankie and
Helsing.
Bran.
Oh yeah.
Oh, then that's not so bad. I
Shannon.
love Frankie and Bran.
Well, that's
Shannon,
because
you're gonna
I
hate us.
introduced them because they wanted me to get us. They wanted a summit meeting with him, and I happened to have
You're
gonna
known
hate us,
Vaughn for a very
Shannon.
long time. So
You're
I
gonna
said, "Hey,
hate us.
Vaughn,
Like literally, you're
we
gonna
have a
hate
sit
us.
down?" I said, Vaughn, will you have a sit down with the
No,
geek
I
room? He's like,
won't.
"Fuck no," and I was like,
You're gonna hate us,
Vaughn,
Shannon.
you guys have no idea what made that into happening to get Vaughn to sit down with the geek room. That was days and days of me convincing
Oh, he doesn't
Vaughn
like the
that he
geek
wasn't
room.
walking in. No,
He doesn't like anybody.
Oh,
He doesn't like
No,
anybody.
he does. Yeah, he's paranoid
like
as fuck,
me.
right? But he actually likes me.
All right.
That's why I was able to trust me.
And have this conversation after this is something we should do this. We're sorry, guys. We forget you're there sometimes.
sorry,
Oh,
guys.
people watching?
But we love you, and we can't. But Shannon, you will hate us after this experience. I promise you, because it will not be fun for you. But it is what we must do in the pursuit of entertainment. We are more than willing to throw our friends under the bus for an extra view and a sub. So
Bring tissues and alcohol. It'll be fine.
Good night, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow with doctrinal contradictions. That has to be a Steve put together
that sounds like fun.
thing. Steve, you want to talk about that?
Cool.
Yeah, that's going to actually be with Jim Majors. Jim Majors is the head of the Atheist, or he's the CEO of Atheist Republic. He works very extensively with organizations, and he has a big following. I mean, Atheist Republic is known worldwide, and he has been compiling list of actual doctrinal contradictions that are more than just, a lot of times people say something's a contradiction. It's not. It's just very vagueness in the scripture. He's actually compiled a list that are actual, no nonsense, straight up contradictions, and I've talked about it, and I think he's legit on that. There are some actual contradictions. Yes. Go figure, right?
Awesome. All right, so
Cool.
we'll have that tomorrow, and I will be in the meantime looking into getting the Church of NonSequitur put together. And to our congregation, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to throw another group of woo peddlers into the dumpster fire. May they forever burn in glorious eternity to keep us warm through this cold winter. See you tomorrow.
Yes, please.
Non sequitur. Your facts are uncoordinated.